So it's been about 2 weeks, I'd say, since I made my last video. There's not a whole lot going on right now at the farm now that corn harvest is over. Equipment maintenance, pretty much. I was down there this morning. Oliver needed some stupid stuff. So did the International, so I banged that out real quick. And then my plan today was to go through my seed tender. I bought this thing sight unseen back in December, I think, at an auction. Dairy farm was going out of business. They sold off what they didn't need, and I guess the ground was, someone else was picking up the ground or something like that. I don't know, but they had a whole list of equipment that was on the docket to sell, and I ended up picking this up. It needs a good amount of work. I'm not sure if I'm going to use it for what I intended on using it for, but we'll see what happens. It's pretty crusty, rusty, as you would expect. They were hauling fertilizer with it. But stainless box, so I got that going for me. But I figured I would make a video on what I got in front of it. This is my, I believe it's a 67 Allis-Chalmers D15 Series 2. The VIN number is missing off at the VIN tag, so I don't know exactly what year it is. I got a couple of Allis buddies, and they seem to think it's a 67 for whatever reason, so we're going with that. But I've had this tractor for probably 3 years. It was a marketplace buy, and honestly, it's probably one of the best running tractors I have. This thing runs like an absolute top, and it's never let me down. But I ended up picking this thing up off of, like I said, off marketplace. It was an elderly couple. They bought it just to kind of tinker with. He was always kind of into tractors, and he picked this up for, I don't know, for whatever reason. And it had been sitting in his carport for, he said, about six years, he would say. And they were moving and couldn't take it with them. So I replied to the ad, and fortunately he had a guy coming to look at it. And I figured it was going to get sold, because for $500, why wouldn't you buy it? It's got damn near brand new tires on the back. The tin looked pretty straight. There is a kink on that far fender over there, but it's not bad. Other than that, the tin is perfect on it. So I figured it was gone, went about my day, and then I got a call about an hour later, and it was the son-in-law for the guy, and he said, hey, the guy bailed on the tractor. He said it was going to need too much work, and he didn't want it. So I showed up with a pocket full of cash and took a good look at it and paid him that night. It did not run. Hadn't run since they parked it in there, although they did drain the carburetor out, so I didn't have to worry about cleaning the carb out, you know, stale gas sitting in it. Front tires were off the rim and totally roached. There was no bringing those back. They were gashed up and everything else. So I went back the next day with my trailer, and unfortunately I noticed my centering pin on one of the leaf springs was snapped because it was going down the road crab walking. So I got one of my buddies to follow me down there with his trailer, and to bring it home that night. While he was on his way down there, I started working on it. I gave it a complete tune-up, you know, plugs, wires, points, condenser, coil, because I hadn't gotten it to run yet. And unfortunately, where this thing was parked in his carport, there was no way to get the trailer down behind the house. There was only like 5 feet of room between the side of the house and a hedgerow, and that's how you had to go in and out of the backyard. So I couldn't get the truck down there to tow it on the trailer, and he didn't have anything to move it. So the only way to get it on the trailer was to get it running at that time. So me and my buddy were working on it. We got there like 5 o'clock, and we were wrenching on it till probably, I'd say, 8 o'clock. And by that point, it was pretty dark out. The owner's already gone inside for the night, and I didn't want to try to drive this thing down past their house at 8 o'clock at night, wake them up. I was assuming they were asleep or something. But not only that, they had a really nice front yard, and with the tires on the rims, I didn't want to, tear up their yard. So we left it outside that night. We came back the following night with a skid steer, and we picked the front of the tractor up and dragged it onto my trailer, as well as the tractor came with a 5-foot Cyclone brush hog, so that went with it. We didn't know how to raise and lower the loader on this thing at the time, because we were not at all familiar with Allis-Chalmers tractors. We're both IH guys. To raise the loader on this thing, this is your 3-point hitch control. You got to raise this all the way up till your 3-point maxes out, and then it sends hydraulic oil to your loader, and that's how you raise and lower it. So we didn't know that at the time, so we had to just pick the front end of the tractor up with the skid steer and drag it onto the trailer. But that was how I came about getting this thing. It was 3 days going back and forth, an hour one way to pick it up, and pretty grateful the owners let us work on it there, because I don't know what we would have done if that wasn't the case. Probably wouldn't have it sitting here, but it's a great running tractor. I use it around the house here for yard work and whatnot. I don't do too much farming with it. I think I'm going to rake hay this year with it, because it just makes sense to use a smaller tractor like this on a rake than it does to throw my 1650 on it. But it has a trip loader, which is kind of a pain in the ass to run, and it's not in great shape. The welds are all cracked up front. I do have a 460 loader off of my old 160 Allis that I got rid of a couple months back. So I think I might try to fab something up to get that to work. The tractor did come with the auxiliary pump set up, so I'll have to put that on it. Neighbor stopped over to say hi. So yeah, so I have an auxiliary pump for it to use with the newer loader. So I think I'm going to do that, and then we'll be in business. It'll be nice to have a real loader on this thing, if we end up going that route. I have the loader for sale right now in Marketplace, but it's not getting a whole lot of interest. So, but yeah, that is the story on my little D15 Allis. 3 days of driving an hour back and forth to get it home. I did have to put, like I said, put new front tires on it. I think they're like $80 a piece for these tires, these Chinese deals, but they've held up pretty well. And I think that's all I had to do to it, aside from the ignition tune-up. Other than that, it's been a solid runner. I did sell the brush hog that it came with. It really wasn't a good brush hogging tractor, because you would flip the PTO off, and if the blades on that thing were still spinning, it's a live PTO, so it would spin the drive shaft and then spin your PTO. And even if you had your clutch in, it was still driving the tractor forward. So it was a little sketchy a few times. The couple times that I did run the brush hog on this thing, but doesn't do too much now. But I originally bought this thing to flip, and my wife's a pretty big Allis-Chalmers girl, so she put the brakes on that idea. This tractor was actually, when we got married, we found an Allis-Chalmers wedding cake topper, and it was painted up to look like this tractor. So, needless to say, this thing's probably never going anywhere. So, it'll be around. But that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.